as you guys go through this transformation into December, which would make this like full circle of the fact that whatever this was I read that came out in December of last year.
Watch them grow, perceive, devote. This is the seed, light the show. Watch them grow.
Hey guys, Princess India here for the 99 in the 2000 what's not or whatever.
You know what I'm saying?
The purpose of this intro is to break down to you everything that I usually say in the beginning of each sign's video, but the intention of it is to cut down on time so we can jump straight into the messages and into the reading. I decided to be really extra and separate this into X.
X number one.
I start with a pick a card. Now, what is the purpose of the pick a card? The purpose of the pick a card is actually the extended reading. So the 3 cards that we pick are actually never really talked about here. I don't want to send everyone over to Vimeo to get an extended that they may not need. So in the event that you watch the YouTube general and you feel that you need a little bit something extra and you decided to pick a card in the very beginning, you would follow me over to Vimeo at the end of the video and you would go by that group that you picked. Act number 2. Right before we get into the cards, usually around the time that I'm shuffling, I give you guys any intuitive messages or visions that I saw for your particular sign. The whole purpose of this is to set your energy and to set your intention and to give you guys a general energy for the month in accordance with whatever comes out with the cards. Act número 3. It's number 3. Act number 3 is just a reading. It's not awkward. So anywho, let's get into your reading. Hello, Gemini. Welcome to your November reading. We are going to start with you guys pick a card for the extended. And you guys are yet another sign that wanted me to use a different deck, Gemini. I don't know what's going on, but hey, you know, I'm here for it. I like the Work Your Light Oracle. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead and pick number 1, 2, or 3 if you're about that life. And I'll go ahead and pick these cards and then hop right into you guys' intuitive message. And what's not, whatever. I hope you're doing fine, Gemini. In case you didn't know, I'm a Gemini rising. You know what I'm saying? This intuitive message is going to be hilarious, Gemini. You know what I'm saying? So anywho, if you picked card number 1, we have Get Grounded. Interesting. If you picked card number 2, we have Protection. And if you picked card number 3, oh, great. One of the words is very hard for me to say. I'm Rama. Let's go with it. Don't you judge me. All right. So those are our 3 groups for our extended, and I'll set those off to the side for right now and get into you guys' intuitive message. So, Gemini. As soon as I tuned into y'all's energy, I lost my breath. And that's something like when I feel anxious, like, or if someone's giving me news and I'm waiting, it's like I'll stop breathing for a second. I'll literally be like waiting for like the punchline, you know? And that's exactly how I felt as soon as I got into y'all's energy. It's almost as if I was just like, you know, like not a shock, but it feels very anxious, right? But I'm just going to be real. The way that y'all's message came in, I don't remember whose it was that came like that, but it was very choppy for me. The first portion of it, I would say it's more or less, it's an anxiousness, but it feels like a waiting. But the thing that I want to tell you guys, because I don't know, it almost feels like working on something for a long time or putting a lot of energy and effort into something. But, and what is, I wouldn't necessarily say anticipation per se, because anticipation is like you're waiting for something and it's like a happy waiting. But this feels more like a nervous, anxious waiting. But the thing that I want to tell you guys in reference to that is almost like things take time. You know what I mean? It's like, if you think about it in the sense of, I don't know, you like say you just started a business or something and, you know, people aren't, or you wrote a book and people aren't supporting your business like you thought, or people aren't buying your book like you thought. And it's more or less like getting anxious and stir crazy and worried and things of the sort. But it's a need to know that things take time, right? I almost want to say it to you like, you fill a bucket one drop at a time. So it's almost like each amount of energy or time that you're investing into whatever it is, whether it's relationship, job, whatever, what you're investing into it, it's like it's collecting and it's going to add up to what it is that you want. But I feel like you're almost giving yourself an unfair time frame. Like you're wanting something to materialize, or even if it's in the sense of like personal development, it's like you're wanting to heal or understand yourself, or wanting a relationship to almost materialize overnight. And it's a need to understand that you're putting drops into the bucket and the bucket will be full, but it's unrealistic at how soon you're expecting that to happen. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. But I feel that that's more related to like the energy to me that's coming to the forefront more than anything. It feels to me like something work related, or something like mission, divine calling type of related. And I mean, it could even be a hobby, if you just, that's something from my personal life. If you, well, I mean, not right now, but back in the day, like if you just started playing the violin or something, it's like, that's not an easy instrument. It's rare that a person just picks it up and is really good, like just off GP, unless you're a musical genius or something. But it's like, it's going to take time and it's going to take practice into that craft in order to master that particular instrument, But it's almost as if you bought a violin, never played in your life, and, you practice twice in, the month of October, and you're like beating yourself up or pissed because, you haven't mastered the instrument yet. So it feels like there's a level of being too hard on yourself or having unrealistic expectations in something, because it's just really unrealistic. It's like, it's not something, even if you were like really beast mode, that could happen in the time frame that you're allotting yourself. Whatever that's about, Gemini. Y'all let me know if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, the central energy for Gemini is the 5 of Wands. Interesting. This is challenged by the 6 of Pentacles. Our past influence is the 8 of Pentacles. Our underlying energy is the 7 of Cups. And I just heard you don't know what you want. That's interesting. Above energy, we have the 6 of Swords. And going forward, we have the Death card. Wow, it's rather fascinating there. Interesting. Okay, so here's the thing. So when we're talking about day-to-day life, God, that is exactly what I said. It's so creepy. With the 8 of Pentacles, where you're coming from in October is exactly what I'm saying. You guys have put work and effort into mastering something. Oh, wow. This is a lot coming out of here. I'm not going to say this for all Geminis. Oh, God. Okay. I'm not going to say this for all Geminis. Some of y'all. The thing that I heard when I looked at the 8 of Pentacles was the motivation behind whatever it is that y'all are trying to master. And it's trying to fill a void, or for some people, it's trying to fill a void, like an unfulfillment. For other people, trying to fill a void. Some, it's trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? Avoid a void, around the void, whatever. So it's like an emptiness one feels, and it's doing things externally or trying to be successful to kind of cover up the fact that one feels unfulfilled. And then for others of you, it's like trying to prove a point to other people. So it would be like, I don't know, if you got bullied or something like that in school when you were younger, right? And the thing that pushed you to be hella successful was the thought that one day you get to like shat on everyone that ever doubted you, that bullied you when you were a kid, right? That's not for everyone. But so I guess like whoever feels a resonance with that aspect of it, a lot of what I'm going to say and going forward, what I see in you guys' cards, it's going to be confronting that truth, that of what your motivation is, in so many words, what the motivation is behind why it is you work so hard or attempt to achieve so much, because that's something that you would need to know, right? Because that would come into with our present energy, why there would be conflict, or either a lack thereof of fulfillment, or going into what Spirit said about the 7 of Cups and your underlying energy, you don't know what you want. It's like I'm conflicted about how it is I want to move forward because I don't really know what it is that I want. And the why behind not knowing what you want is because what has motivated you up to this point has been your actions or things that you've been pursuing. They've been for inauthentic reasons, because it's been more to prove a point to other people or to escape something, as opposed to it being like from, the foundation of your value system, your goals, your dreams, your desires, and so on and so forth. So and this can also be someone who, is in a job that they hate. It's like you could be at a job that's like a slave driving job, and the job sucks up most of your life to where you don't have much of a personal life. And it's a conflict in the sense of like feeling unfulfilled, or wondering why you feel like your life is in so much calamity or chaos, or feeling as if you're lost in life. And the root of that is in the fact that the job isn't fulfilling. Like, it's not feeding your soul. It's just a means of making money. It's literally, a job. You know what I mean? It's not a passion. It's not a career. And what is looking like for me, what is going to empower Gemini this month, is whether this is in the sense of kind of stepping away from what I was saying about the unfulfillment thing. And if we just look at this as being very focused and fixated on achieving a goal or some outcome, what I feel for the other group of Geminis is almost losing the why behind what you're doing. So this would be like someone who lacks work-life balance, and you spend a lot of time working, to get money or to get somewhere in your life, but it's almost as if this cloud of confusion follows you around, and it's a feeling of, unrest and anxiety, like you're never really sleeping at night, like you sleep but you don't rest. You know what I mean? You wake up, it doesn't matter how many hours you sleep, it's like you're still gonna wake up feeling as if you haven't slept at all, in so many words. And I feel it's because the why that's motivating your actions has been lost, or it's just coming into the realization, because this could be very, spiritually transformative, in a sense to where you're in the beginning stages of an awakening, and you're beginning to like have that first, initial wake up call where, you were kind of on autopilot up to this point, and living your life through should, oughts, and supposed tos and expectations, and what, your culture or family or whatever said that life was supposed to be. And you're for the first time actually kind of stepping out of the fray and saying like, what am I doing? Why am I here? Like, I don't really think that I want this, in so many words. So for that second group of Geminis, I'm picking up on, it's a need to gain clarity on what it is that you desire, what it is that you love. Well, I can't even say just for the second group of Geminis. I would say this is something, whether it's the group of people that I talked about before that are unfulfilled and are pursuing something to prove a point to, or, fill some sort of void or whatever, or if it's just someone who, there's a lack of balance in one's life where you work more than you do anything else. Like you don't really allow yourself time to relax or play or what have you, or you spend more time working than you do with family and friends, or if it's someone who's in the beginning stages of their awakening to where you're starting to question how you've been living your life up to this point in general. The solution for all of these groups of people, or the energies I'm picking up on, is really to get clear on what is it that you love. And the corny way I always say it is like, what sets your soul on fire? Like, what are you passionate about? What gives you peace? What gives you joy? Like, what is your highest ideal about a thing? And the key is to have the courage to step into that, or to push through into it, or stand for that, and not necessarily so much with you in relation to other people, but it's more or less standing in that power and that energy and that truth within yourself, so that you can birth it in a very external sense. Because it feels very much to me, it feels very much like being in service to other people to me. And I think what's needed is almost like a detox in a sense in the month of November. It's almost like really stepping apart. Like I always call the Five of Wands in this particular deck, I call it my ceasefire card, right? Because in the typical Rider-Waite, everybody is like slapping each other with sticks, you know? But it's like this guy stands and everyone sits. So to me, the end of any conflicting energy, where stability is created, where a foundation is created, is by Gemini. Yeah, that's really what it is, man. It's Gemini finding their voice this month. That's really what it is. Finding their voice and finding their truth. And that's a lot of what the theme is. We talked about this in the recap reading. It's like finding your ground. Like what it is that you're going to build your life on from this moment forward. And as opposed to you being, in service to another man's vision, and not literal man, but I'm saying like people in general, like being caught into the whirlwind and the chaos of following other ethos or truths or desires of other people, or even sacrificing yourself to the point to where you make your life about someone outside of yourself. It's more or less you guys taking that back within yourself and changing the dynamics of your external world by you guys standing in your truth. But as it stands in November, looking at the Seven of Cups and the underlying influence, for all groups of Geminis I'm picking up on, it's not knowing what you want. And I feel for a lot of you, that's a question that's never really been asked, or not knowing that you had the permission to ask such of a thing, you know? But this feels very much related to me with an awakening. It really, really does. Whether it's an awakening to a new level, like a new awareness, or this is just somebody really going through that epic, like, Neo in the Matrix, you know what I'm saying, kind of moment. But what I feel November is going to be for you guys, which isn't bad because, Mercury retrograde is a great time to reflect, is really stepping away from everyone and detoxing to get clear on what it is that you want, what brings you joy, and what you love. And even more so going into really getting clear on who you are. Like, really doing self-exploration, looking at all facets of your life and well-being, and what parts of your life you want to work on, or how much it is that you know about yourself. Because I'm really seeing this as and it's kind of like, I don't know how the quote goes specifically, and I don't want to butcher it. It's like, if we talk about relationships and partnerships, like they always say, like, or even friends, it's like you want to be your own best friend or your own best partner first, like to yourself, so that you can be a great partner to someone else. Like attracts like and all that good stuff. So it's more or less looking at that, not so much from a relationship dynamic. I mean, you could look at it that way if that's relevant to you. But I mean, looking at that in relation to your life. It's like, are you living in accordance with, or even if you reverse it, if you were to think of being in a relationship with someone, do you think you would be an ideal partner? Are you an ideal employee? Are you an ideal boss? Are you an ideal friend? It's like, if you don't feel that you're that to yourself right now, it's more or less wanting to find out what is the gap in between that. You know, like, would you date you? Would you be friends with you? Would you hire you? And why not? And what are those things that can be changed, and what would you do different? You know what I mean? And that more or less giving you your to-do list or your schematic for how it is that you guys, or what you guys would be working on going forward throughout the month. But I do feel it's imperative or needed, going back to what I was saying about the whole detox thing. I think it's important for you guys to kind of get away from influences right now. I'm not saying you should cut everybody off and everything, but it's needing to really push away all influences to get very clear on yourself organically. It's like, without other people's influence, without other people's opinions or suggestions or expectations, it's like who you are naked, what you want naked, what you desire naked. You know what I mean? And not, I don't mean that literally, but I'm saying, you know, without anything that's covering you. It's like, what is the true desires of your heart? And I feel that finding that and incorporating that into what's been built up to this point, you know what I mean? Standing in your sense of power and not allowing other people to be authoritarian figures in your life. I feel that's what's really going to usher in an epic transformation for you guys. So it's almost an ending of not just a cycle, but a former way of being, a former way of relating to others, a former way of relating to yourself. It's you going into, we could even say literally December. I feel Gemini's going into December. Oh, wow. That makes me think about what the whole task was for Gemini's this year. Fascinating. I feel the whole energy for you guys going into December would be that of union. And wow, that's fascinating, because it makes me think about Cancer's reading too, and like their whole little arch nemesis person. Let me go back to the theme for Gemini this year. I don't remember where it was I came across this, because it literally was like in December of last year. So December of 2018. But it was something I was reading, and they were talking about coming into 2019, how people always joke about Geminis, you know, and the twins, and there being like, you know, the good twin and the evil twin. And most Geminis feel tasked with having to choose to be one or the other. And they were saying that in 2019, the epic transformation that Gemini was going to go through was that they were going to realize that there was never a need to choose between, you know, the good twin or the evil twin, proverbially speaking, that Geminis were going to go through an awakening to where they would find a middle road between the two, which would be a third option, which is also the theme of all of our readings thus far this month, is that there's a third hidden option that only spirit can reveal. It's like a third pathway that only spirit can reveal to us. And that middle pathway would show Gemini that it was not about one or the other. It was about creating union and marriage between the two. So it's more or less a partnership with oneself, much like how trees are a system that work together. It's individual parts. So the two exist within this bigger system, but they're independent yet interconnected upon each other. So it's not necessarily a need for one to be the other. One needs to be what it is. So if we say that with you guys, you know, two polarities, there's a very distinct need for the evil twin. There's a very distinct need for the good twin. And now with us understanding that we don't have to choose between the two, we can find that middle road of balance where we can exist as these two things at once, right? Now, I have complexity and difficulty like explaining that out of my mouth, but I find that whenever we try to explain the unexplainable, because it's like a spiritual transmutation that kind of happens in situations like that, I think those are things where it's hard to understand cognitively. But like I've been seeing for all the signs, and I would definitely say watch Cancer if you guys have Cancer in your chart somewhere, or if you just want to watch it. You know, I'm just going to start saying everybody can just watch all signs. Jeez, especially the way these are bleeding into each other. But this is really about finding the balance between these two extremes. And I feel the vehicle through which that happens is Gemini getting reacquainted with their truth this month and finding that balance between those two twins. So looking at our death card, I really feel that that's what the death card is speaking about, you know? And it's funny because I'm looking in the background of the death card, how I see like the sun and you see the two towers, right? And it's like, I relate that to the moon card and how you see the two towers and the path between. It's almost like where you guys are now, you just see the two towers, which would be this or that. And it's like, as you guys go through this transformation into December, which would make this like full circle of the fact that whatever this was I read that came out in December of last year, then this is you guys coming full circle and finding that middle road between two extremes. So this is like a really epic transformative process for my Geminis in the month of November and going into December. You know what I'm saying? So dude, that sounds really good. I'm excited. And of course, you know, I mean, if it's relevant, I'm not going to necessarily say it's going to come via Scorpio because the death card's here. But I mean, if Scorpio has some relevance to you, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. But we're going to go ahead and throw the dice of resonance. Am I missing one? I feel like I'm missing one. Yes, I am. I knew it. We're going to throw the dice of resonance so you guys can ask a yes or no question if you like. You know what I'm saying? And whatnot or whatever. All right. We have yes is the answer to your question. We have Pisces. We have family. We have rising. And we have Virgo. So yes, family, Pisces, Virgo, and rising. And we're going to throw the dice that have no name. But this looks really good to me. It looks really, really good to me. It's almost as if the buck stops here, you know? And it feels that way to me for all signs. It's almost like everybody's reaching this blockade where it's like, okay, you can't go any further than this until you handle X, Y, Z in so many words. So in the dice that have no name, we have Libra. We have the number 5, and is that Jupiter? Yes, it is. Look at me. Okay, for Jupiter, it says, achieve abundance via personal growth and ethical living. Feel and express gratitude, give generously, and work on self-improvement. If that is not in alignment with all that we've said there, Gemini, I'm just saying. And then we have a Libra here. I usually don't interpret these, but I mean, Libra, I feel the need to say balance, you know? And I'm looking at all of this balance that's being talked about for you all here. And then the number 5, your arcana to meditate on this month is the Hierophant. And it says, consistently inconsistent, mental instability, and sheepishly following without question. Don't forsake your truth in service to another's. Oh my goodness, if that is not so on point right now, I'm just saying, you know. The Hierophant would be the perfect arcana to meditate on this month, because if we look at the symbology or the meaning behind it, looking at how the Hierophant can go terribly wrong is when we have rituals, when we have tradition, when we have religion, when we have structures and systems and, you know, powers that be that are devoid of spirit, right? The whole purpose of systems or rituals are for the intention to be in service to us. It's supposed to make our spiritual journey easier, or our growth easier, or, you know, achieving a goal easier. But like we talked about in you guys reading, when the why is lost, when the authentic motivation, when the passion, when the spiritual unction, when the desire is lost in a ritual system or organization, then it becomes an oppressor, right? Because the spirit, and spirit meaning, you know, emotion, drive, whatever you want it to represent, that's more or less the special ingredient to the success of said system, ritual, organization, what have you, right? And without it, it ends up becoming a very oppressive force. You know what I mean? It ends up becoming bondage, where we're chained to doing something in a very systematic way, and we're not even sure why anymore, right? So we become in service to it. And that's very much the theme that I'm picking up on for Geminis. So it's more or less looking at the lighter side of the Hierophant is what the goal would be. And it's more or less it being a formality or a structure or a schematic that is in service to you and you not being in service to it. So, my Geminis, that has been your November reading. I'm going to go over to Vimeo. If you're about that life, follow me over there. If not, that's totally cool. I still love your freaking face. And I will see you guys sooner than later. You know, chaos or unrest or discomfort that you're feeling, that would be a symptom of the deeper problem and the deeper harm, and it's more insidious. That's a more insidious form of forsaking your truth for someone else's. In Group 1 people, there's a need for you guys to get out of your head and back into your body, because I feel that there's a level of, well, I could say this a few ways. Now, for my group number 2 people who have, when I talked about like that group of people who were working really hard or trying to achieve something to like prove a point to other people, that's more or less, it doesn't look like it with my group 3 people, who that's the group of people that to me feel as if, like how I said, it's like the Matrix, like Neo in the Matrix, and it's like the epic awakening of realizing like a lot of what you've done up to this point were should ought supposed to other people's expectations, being on autopilot and kind of being introduced now to